Sonia Marsh had coordinated charitable auction events for Veldon House for 9 years, and in 9 years she had learned to expect most things. She had learned the shape of a tense room, the particular silence that fell when someone bid above their range, the small negotiations that happened in the margins of the official catalog. What she had not learned to expect was what happened on the Thursday of the Alderman Foundation Gala, and she was still thinking about it when she wrote up her incident notes at midnight. The catalog had been assembled over 5 weeks. Mara Cassidy had done most of it. She was the new coordinator, 3 months in from her previous position at the Fenwick archival firm, and she worked with the kind of careful attention that made Sonia grateful for the hiring choice. She cataloged 61 lots, wrote every descriptive entry in longhand first before the typesetting, and had the kind of specific language that made a lot come alive on the page. Not florid, not cold, just precise and warm in equal measure. Sonia had noted it early and put her on the Alderman event because it mattered. The Alderman Foundation raised money for literacy programs. The guests were generous, the room was warm, and the catalog was important. What Sonia had not known, because there was no reason to know it, was that Mara Cassidy and Dorian Vale had a history. She pieced it together afterward from what she witnessed and what Mara told her later, when enough time had passed that she could tell it plainly. 7 years earlier, Mara had worked as a private archivist for the Vale household for 13 months. She had cataloged the personal library, the correspondence archive, the collection of illustrated atlases the man's grandfather had assembled over 4 decades. She had been 26. He had been 37. The work had been meticulous and exact, and the household had been the most orderly place she had ever worked. She had been treated with complete professional respect and had been very careful, herself, to maintain the boundary that the work required. What had happened? The thing that had ended the position was that a member of the household staff had told her, in what she understood to be good faith, that the household was being restructured, that the archival position was one of 3 being eliminated, and that it would be better to step away gracefully rather than wait for the formal notice. She had given 3 days' notice, thanked the principal in a formal letter, and taken another position. The restructuring had not happened. The archival position had not been eliminated. The household staff member, Sonia learned later, had been a woman who had her own reasons for wanting the archivist gone. Dorian Vale had arrived home on the 4th day to find the archive sealed and a letter in his correspondence tray that said, formally and precisely, that it had been her privilege to work with his collection. He had kept the letter. He had kept every piece of correspondence she had sent him during the 13 months. The brief technical notes left with completed catalog, sections, the one query about the atlas provenance, the twice-monthly progress summaries she had written by hand on the firm's standard form. He had kept them in the archive itself, in the correspondence section she had organized, in a folder she had labeled Internal, Staff and Coordination. Sonia did not know this when the evening began. She found it out piece by piece. Dorian Vale arrived at 7:15 with 1 man, which was fewer than he usually brought to a public event of this size. Sonia greeted him at the registration desk, confirmed his paddle, and handed him the catalog. He took it, opened it to the first lot description, and stopped. She was watching because it was her job to watch. He went very still, not the usual powerful man stillness she was used to in this room, but a different quality, a quality of genuine surprise that he had not prepared for. He read the entry for Lot 3. He turned to Lot 7. He looked at the acknowledgments page at the back, where the coordinator's name was listed under Event Staff. He closed the catalog. Then he found Sonia. He asked her, in a voice that was entirely level, whether the catalog coordinator was present this evening. She said yes. He asked where. She indicated the exhibition floor, where Mara was doing a final check on the lot placements before bidding opened. He said thank you and went that direction. His 1 man stayed at the registration desk. Sonia followed at a professional distance because that was also her job, and because she had been in enough rooms to know when something was happening that would require her to be present. She saw it from 15 feet away. Mara was at Lot 31, a set of illustrated natural history folios from the 1840s, which she had cataloged with particular care, checking the positioning of the display stand when she heard her name. She turned. Sonia watched the color change in her face, not fear, not guilt, but the particular expression of someone who has carried a thing for years and suddenly finds it in front of them. He stopped 3 feet away. He said her name once as a statement. She said his. She said, "I didn't know you were a donor." he said. I didn't know you were here until I opened the catalog. There was a pause. Sonia, 15 feet away and professionally invisible, did not move. He said, I kept your notes, she said. I'm sorry, he said, the correspondence file. I kept them in the section you organized. I read the exit letter 4 times before I understood what had happened. By the time I understood, there was no way to reach you that wasn't. He stopped. He said, I didn't think you'd want to hear from me. I thought you'd left because you'd decided to leave. She was quiet for a moment. The bidding clock was 7 minutes from opening. The room was filling around them, and they were entirely alone. She said, I was told the position was being eliminated. I was told it would be better to go quietly. He looked at her. He said, by whom? She described the woman. He said a name. She said yes. He said it quietly and without particular emphasis, and Sonia understood from the quality of it that the woman in question no longer worked for the Vale household and that this had been true for some time. Mara said, I thought the decision had been made. He said, the only decision I made was to keep the correspondence. Another pause. The room was warm around them. The folios at lot 31 were open to the page with the spotted woodpecker, and the light from the exhibition spots fell across the hand-colored illustration and across both their faces. She said, you could have tried to find me, he said. I know, he said. I decided that if you had left because you chose to, I had no standing to change that. I wasn't going to reach for something that had been put down deliberately. He paused. He said, I should have asked the question directly before I made that assumption. She said, I should have asked more questions before I believed what I was told. He said, yes, a beat. She said, you actually read the progress summaries. He said, everyone. He said, I kept them because they were the clearest professional writing I had ever read. He said it flatly, as a fact, and she heard the other thing in it. The thing he was also saying, that it had not only been the professional clarity. She looked at him for a long moment. The bidding clock was at 4 minutes. The room was full. She said, Lot 46 has a provenance note that I think you'll find interesting. It relates to the Alderman grandfather's collection. If you're serious about the literacy initiative, it's the lot to look at, he said. All right, she said. I annotated the entry in the catalog supplemental page, page 81. He opened the catalog he was still holding. He turned to page 81. He read. He said, how did you find it? She said, it took 2 weeks and 1 call to the Glasgow Registry Office. She said, I do good work. He looked up. He said, I know. He said, I always knew. The bidding opened. He bid on lot 46 and won it. He also bid, Sonia noticed, on lot 31. He did not need either of them, but he bid carefully and without theater, as a man does when the bidding is not really about the lots. After the event closed, Sonia was doing her final notes at the coordination desk when Mara came to find her. She said she would be taking some personal time before starting her next Veldon engagement. She said it the way people say things, when they want to be honest without saying everything. Sonia told her to take what she needed and that the January catalog could wait. 3 months later, a set of illustrated atlases arrived at Veldon House as a charitable donation from the Vale estate. 41 volumes, the grandfather's collection, immaculately preserved, with a note requesting they be used as reference material for the literacy program's young readers. The accompanying letter was typed, formal, and signed. The catalog entry attached was handwritten. Sonia recognized the handwriting. She filed it under the correct heading and said nothing about it to anyone. Some things were not hers to talk about. She understood that. She had learned in 9 years of watching rooms that the things that were real didn't need her to announce them. They just needed to be placed correctly. She was good at that. It was the most important part of the work.